Hello. So this is the lecture for Chapter 14, Firms in a Competitive Market. So the first question we should ask when we're talking about firms in a competitive market is, what is perfect competition? What are the conditions that create a perfectly competitive market? So the first condition is that there are many buyers and sellers. And this is really key because the buyers and sellers in this market, there needs to be a large enough amount of them so that the buyers and sellers are not able to individually set the price in the market. And we'll get to what that means and what that's specifically called later. But for the first piece, we just want to make sure that we understand that there are a large enough number of buyers and sellers in a perfectly competitive market that they are not able to control the price individually. The second condition of perfect competition is that each firm in the market sells homogeneous goods. And all that means is that each firm in the market sells a similar good. So this could be the case of toothpaste or paper products, that the firms in the market sell goods that are similar enough that consumers are unable to distinguish between two goods. And the third condition is that firms can freely enter or exit the market. And so what does that mean? Well, effectively, that means that firms are able to, if they want to enter this market, they can enter the market. Or if they're losing money, that they can exit the market. And let's say, for example, that you are thinking about operating an ice cream shop. So in the ice cream market, you are able to freely enter that market. And if it turns out that your ice cream shop is losing money, you are freely able to exit the ice cream market. So as I previously mentioned, the condition of perfect competition is that there are many buyers and sellers. So what that effectively means is that both buyers and sellers in a perfectly competitive market are price takers. They take whatever price is set in the market as given. They cannot influence the price in the market. And so all that means is that the price in the market is just set through the natural interaction of buyers and sellers. So that's really important for perfect competition. So the first piece of firms and firms in perfect competition are how firms earn money or earn revenue. So the first formula that they're going to want to remember is how to calculate total revenue. So total revenue is equal to the price times the quantity. So the price set in the market times the quantity, and the quantity could be the quantity of an individual firm or the quantity in the market if you want to determine the total market revenue. To determine average revenue, you're just going to take total revenue and divide it by quantity. And to determine marginal revenue, you're going to take the change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity. And so marginal revenue is effectively just the change in total revenue from selling one more unit. So what is the additional revenue that you earn by selling one more unit of the good? That is effectively marginal revenue. So let's take a look at revenue and how to calculate it in this example. So you're always going to need quantity and you're always going to need price. So total revenue, as we learned before, is just price times quantity. So we're just going to take the quantity times the price to get total revenue. And we can do that for every single quantity and every single price. The next formula that we're going to calculate is average revenue. So average revenue is just total revenue divided by quantity. So in this case, we would take 200 and divide it by 20 to get $10. So at a quantity of 20, the average revenue is 10. And if you'll notice, the average revenue is consistent down this entire example. The next formula that we're going to review is marginal revenue. So marginal revenue is the change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity. So for this example, we can see that at a quantity of 20, the movement is from 0 to 20. So there's going to be an increase in 20 units. The next example is going to be the total revenue. So moving from $0 sold at a quantity of 0 to 200 at a quantity of 20. So what we do then is we're going to take 200 divided by 20, and that's going to give us the marginal revenue. So note in this example as well that the price, average revenue, and marginal revenue are all the same. We won't get into exactly why that is the case now, but just remember that for moving forward, because this is a very unique condition of perfect competition. So for a perfectly competitive firm, marginal revenue needs to equal price. So a competitive firm can keep increasing its output without affecting the market price. And this is really important because each 1 unit increase in quantity for a firm will cause revenue to rise by that price. So this is kind of the bedrock for production, because marginal revenue equals price, because marginal revenue equals the change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity. So marginal revenue is equal to price. It's only true for firms in a perfectly competitive market. So for firms in a perfectly competitive market, marginal revenue is equal to price, because firms in a perfectly competitive market do not have the ability to influence or change the price. So their price is also going to be their marginal revenue. So really key point, marginal revenue equals price for a perfectly competitive firm. So now we're going to talk about profit maximization. So how do firms maximize profits? So the question should be asked, what quantity maximizes a firm's profits? Well, if you increase quantity by 1 unit, revenue is going to rise by marginal revenue, and cost is going to rise by marginal cost. So then to determine where we should produce, if marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, then we need to increase quantity to raise profit. But if marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, we need to reduce quantity to raise profit. And so what does that look like? Well, let's take a look. So we know that from the previous example, marginal revenue greater than marginal cost, there needs to be an increase in quantity to raise profits. In marginal revenue less than marginal cost, you need to reduce quantity to raise profits. Look at an example of profit maximization. So we can see here we have a similar table as the prior example. So we have quantity, and the price in this case is going to be $10 at every single quantity. So we can compute our total revenue by taking quantity times price. So notice that we're given our total revenue. Total costs are also going to be given to us, and we know that the fixed cost in this case is $50. So we can compute our profit here by taking total revenue minus total cost. So total revenue, total cost is going to give us our profit, and we can do that for every single quantity. The next thing that we're going to want to compute is marginal revenue, which is the change in total revenue over change in quantity. So let's say we want to compute that at a quantity of 20. So we're going to take the change in total revenue, which in this case is moving from 0 to 200. Then we're going to take the change in quantity, which is moving from 0 to 20. So in this case, we would divide 200 by 20, which would give us 10. And so we do that all the way down to determine marginal revenue. Marginal cost, we're going to take the change in total cost divided by the change in quantity. So at our first, moving from 0 to 20, we have a change in total cost of 100. So we're going to take 100 and we are going to divide that by 20. So 100 divided by 20 is going to give us a marginal cost of 5. And so then to determine the change in profit, what we're going to do is take marginal revenue minus marginal cost. And if we take 10 minus 5, we are going to get a change in profit of $5. So notice that, and this is kind of the really key piece here as well, is that marginal cost is going to be generally increasing while marginal revenue is going to stay the same. So there is an interesting portion actually of this example where the change in profit is actually negative. So we are actually decreasing our profit by producing more. And so at the moving from 55 to 65, we're actually decreasing our profit by effectively 250. And moving from 65 to 70, our MR minus MC change in profit is going to be 10. So we're decreasing by 10. So note that while you generally increase profit, you are going to reach a point where you're going to start seeing profits decrease and change in profit decrease as well.